Okay. Again, I'm going to cover chapter 25 from the Xcode book. Again, you should have a little doc in there. I'm going to launch the Xcode software. Again, this demonstration will be making two views, and we'll be passing data between each view, something that probably any application you will have to do that you make. Okay, data needs to go back and forth between whatever scenes you have. Again, I'm going to start with a new Xcode project, the one that's right in the middle, the new Xcode project. It brings up this window again. We saw this last class, right? Again, with the application, you can make things like iOS would be for your phone and iPad. Again, you got your iWatch, your TV, and your application. And I encourage you to maybe try them, because the same way that you build it for the iOS is very similar to all of them. Okay? Because they're all very similar. You know, you have a view and you add content to it, and then people can go through scenes and stuff. So, I don't know. Try some other things. Right? You got to play. That's the way you learn. Remember when you guys were learning Illustrator, where you play a lot in Illustrator, right? Okay, you got to play a lot. So again, single view, hit next. It's going to ask you to give it a name. Now, the book said to call it storyboard. If you want to call it storyboard, you can call it storyboard if you want. The only problem with calling it storyboard is you get kind of confused maybe because, oh, I don't know, making storyboards and I named it storyboard. How about we call it storyboard, or how about Jeff's storyboard? We'll give it a name. There we go. So in this window, we're basically making a universal. They say, and if you got the book, I'm going to skim through it. I'm not going to read word for word from the book. I'm kind of just going. If you look at 25.1, they say to use the universal Swift, right? We're using Swift, universal, and you don't need to have use core data selected there. And you hit next. And it's going to ask you where you want to save it. Hopefully, maybe you have a folder on your desktop. You should find a location. If you need to make a location on the computer, again, there's a new folder right here. You can click new folder right there, make a folder somewhere, maybe on your desktop. I don't know, somewhere where you know where you're saving your file. And then when you're done, you don't have to use the Git yet. Again, I'll cover this a little bit. I'll show you how I made a Git account. The purpose of the Git account is so that you can share your programming with other people. Right? If you're gonna work with somebody, you want to be able to share it so that we're not using USBs anymore. Nobody uses files on a disk anymore, right? Everything's in the cloud. So if you want to put your programming in a cloud, you use Git. Okay? Let's not go there right now. Let's hit create. Just for now, you don't need to do this if you don't want to, but sometimes the dock is in my way when I'm working. If you want to hide the dock, okay, it's not going to be, you're just going to hide it. I can hide the dock by going to the apple in the upper corner and go where it says, where's hide dock? I guess under system preferences, and there is a dock. So you don't have to do this. I'm just doing it for my screen so I don't have a dock, and there should be an option for the dock right here, and I'm going to say hide. Where's hide dock? Is there a hide dock?
Right there, under in.
Oh, here, automatic hide dock. Thank you. Okay, I knew it was a way to get rid of it. Okay, again, this is the storyboard, and notice how it says Jeff storyboard up there, and it also made a folder inside of the folder I just made with my files in it. Notice how there's several files, and like I was explaining before on the board, you have a main storyboard, and then you have some Swift files. And how this program works is that it has these programming files that are linked to a more visual file. So the storyboard is the visual file that we worked with last time, and then the Swift files you see there are programming files that are associated with that storyboard. Okay, and then. And like I was telling you before, we're going to make a new Swift file for the new storyboard when we get to it. You can pretty much leave all of this default right here. You don't really need to change anything. I'm not sure why it says no coding a signature identity. I'm not really. Oh, we don't have a team. We're not working with a group right now. Okay, so you don't need to deal with any of this stuff right here. The screen we want to click on again was just like last class, the main storyboard right there. So remember, last class we clicked on the one that said main storyboard, right? You should have a visual screen over here. If you can't see the entire screen, you might need to scroll around, or you can double click outside the view controller and it'll zoom in and out. See that? Notice how when I click outside the view controller, because think about it, if you're going to have multiple views in there, you're going to have windows with different screens or different interfaces on them. You're going to want to be able to screen out and see them all together. Okay, so it's going to, as you make more complex kind of programming, you're going to have several. Again, practice that. Again, how did I zoom in and out? There's no, I'm used to using Adobe products, right? We hit the Control plus and Control minus. It doesn't work here. Okay.
We need Command plus or minus, I think.
Does it work? Oh, it does. Thank you. It does work. Okay, let's continue. I'm going to turn the page. I'm on page 2, chapter 25. We have our screen. Okay. Objects may be added to the library. Again, the objects are these down here. The objects are these over here. We want to add a label and a button. Okay, so remember how we can look over here, we can search, right? So if you want label, I can click over here and type in, remember, again, this one here, this blue one here, and you can search right here. Yes? Let me click on the screen. You can type in label down here, L-A-B-E-L, and I can drag a label out. Oh, you might have to get close. Label, and put it in the center, and we're going to call it scene 1, and call it scene 1. So again, put a label on your view controller, just dragging it from here. You can type the word label here. It gives you a label, drag it out, and you can change the name to scene 1. Next, I'm going to put a button out there. And I'm going to call it button, B-U-T-T-O-N. I'm going to grab a buttonette out there and put it in there. Put it right in the middle there. And that's going to say go to scene 2. Go to scene 2. Okay? So again, one is and I showed you last class how to change these and make them look beautiful, right? We're not going to do that right now. But you can spend your time changing them and make them beautiful. Remember how we gave it a background color and changed the size so it was big and things like that? Watch the first video again. Okay, now in order for this to work properly, if you remember last class we had went down to this option down here to give it some constraints, right? Well, you can also, and if you look in probably around chapter 20, I think it is, somewhere around there, or maybe actually a little bit earlier, around chapter 17, I believe it is, where you can have default constraints. I know last class we kind of went for the constraint option. We put 0, 0 on both sides. Remember the little red line? Remember doing that? Who remembers doing the red line? 2 people only? We don't remember last week? So, just trying to get your brain to think about last Wednesday. It was a week ago, I know, and there was a Super Bowl in between. Whoosh! Okay. You don't necessarily need to do that all the time. There's some default constraints. Okay, that's what I'm trying to say, is you don't have to go in and do that every time. There's a whole chapter on default constraints, but this book goes into right here. You can do it. Again, right below where I typed. I'm on the bottom of page 182 in the book. Using the Resolve Auto Layout Issues menu, select the Reset to Suggested Constraint options under all views in the view controller. What does that tell me? Again, like I just said, you don't have to go and hand do it. It's the program making suggestions on what constraints are probably best for you. That's the term is what it's doing there. So if you come down here, you'll notice, remember this one down here where we were doing update constraints? Do you remember that? It's this little icon right here. It looks like a little triangle with the little lines. Do you remember that one? Okay, this time we're going to reset to suggested constraints. Okay? Reset to suggested constraints. Under all views, right here, this one, under all views in controller, reset to suggested constraints. And watch what happens. Oh, nothing happened. Oh, using the resolve auto issues menu first. I'm sorry, I skipped a step. I skipped a step. Where was that at? No, it was there somewhere. Using the reset all and reset suggested constraints. I think it was under the same menu. Reset this is using the resolve auto layout issues menu. Can anybody help me find it? I know I did it. I did this last week and I can't remember where I clicked. Maybe it was this one. No, I swear it was this one. Let me undo that. I know I did this. I just can't remember. Again, I did not have it selected. That was my mistake. Remember when we were suggesting them, select them, and then it was under reset to suggested constraints. Okay, everybody got that? Yes? You ready to move on? No? You need to put a label on. Label. Drag the label out. Hold on. Hold on. So after I did the update, reset to suggestion constraints option under the all views in the view controller, in order to manipulate the text displayed in a label object from within the application code, it is necessary to first establish an outlet. Select the label in the storyboard canvas and display the assistant editor, view assistant editor, show assistant editor. So again, this is the label, right? Okay, so you go underneath the view assistant editor, show assistant editor. It brings up the code. What is the code here? This is the Swift code. This is basically that file that you see up there. Okay, it's the Swift code for the scene. Remember we talked about this is the scene. Let's read some of it first and we'll see some of the things. The first one is right here where it says import UI kit. What does it do? It tells the view to have access to the user interface elements within the application. Right? UI means user interface. Okay, so the first line says UI kit. So there's some pre-made, of course, buttons. We dragged them from down over here onto the screen, right? Hey, they're pre-made buttons and things like that. Okay, and then if you look here, it has some, it tells what is it? It's a view controller. Okay. Then this line right here says override function view did load. So what this is saying is, what happens when the page loads? That's basically what it's saying. So you got to kind of read between the lines of the programming to kind of see what it's kind of telling you. And what they want you to do is they want you to drag, okay, check the assistant editor showing the content of the view Swift file, control click on the label and drag the resulting line to just below the class declaration line in the assistant editor. In the resulting connection dialog, enter scene label 1 as the outlet name and click on the connect button. Upon completion of the connection, the top of the view controller should read as follows. Okay, so we're going to drag the, hold on, I'm going to make this window, I'm going to have to adjust this window a little bit here. I'm going to move this window over so you can see more. Okay, again, you can always click over here to hide the edge. See that? Hide, show, hide, show. So if you need more space, you can rearrange your windows here, or you can drag them. Okay, so I'm going to click on the scene 1 here, and I'm going to drag it right over to here. See, I'm using the right mouse. I'm using the right mouse to grab the label and drag it right below the view controller. I'm going to release the mouse. It's going to ask me for a name. The name I'm going to type in is Scene 1 Label. So I'm going to type in SCENE 1 and then a capital L. Make sure your capitals are very important. Programming is case sensitive. So if I put a capital L there, you're going to have to use a capital L later. LABEL. Okay? And then hit connect. Did you all get that? Okay, again, it was dragging from here down here and then giving it a name basically, and you can go and type it if you have to by hand. So the program makes it easy for you to kind of drag things around. Everybody cool with that? Okay. No, you didn't get it to work? Yes, I did get it to work. Okay, now if you don't want to see this anymore, I don't need it right now, you can always bring it back under the View Assistant Editor, right? Or View, View Assistant Editor, Show Assistant Editor. I'm going to actually close this by hitting the little X in the upper corner, so I don't have to keep this up right now. I'm going to close it for now. It goes away. Did you see the little X in the upper right corner? You can bring it back, no stress. It'll come back when you need it. Okay, what we're going to do next is we're going to make our scene 2. Remember, we're going to have 2 scenes and we're going to pass data back and forth between them. So to make our scene 2, do you remember coming down here and typing in the word view, right? V-I-E-W, view. Okay? We're going to make another view controller. If you remember from last class, we can drag it out by simply holding the left mouse down and dragging out here somewhere, and it'll make a second view controller. And then you see your window, oh, I don't see, it's all messed up. Remember, you can double click on the screen, or what was it, command plus, minus? There we go. Thank you. Command minus, and you can move it around. Again, command minus. It is like Photoshop, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. That's
Okay.
the only reason I know it, because Photoshop.
Uh-oh. It's getting a little crazy, but you get the idea. Again, double clicking will zoom out. How do I zoom in? Oh. All right. My windows are going crazy. Be nice if we could just set them center. I'm sure there's probably a way. I just don't know how to do it. Okay, you got a second scene, right? Drag the view controller out. You'll have a second one there. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to put our scene 2. So put a label, put a button, and then do the reset constraint thing. We're doing the exact same thing. So again, we're going to put a label, L-A-B-E-L. I'm going to put a label out there. Boom. There's our label. Put it in the center. And again, this is called Scene 2, right? And then we're going to put a button. That button will go back to Scene 1. We're going to call it Button. And I'm going to type in a button. Okay, and that button's going to say go back to Scene 1. Go back to Scene 1. Oops, spell it right. Okay. So, and then select both of them. That was my mistake last time. Select both of them. Go under here where that member down here. Okay. Reset to suggested constraints. Do you see that? Again, put those things out there. Make sure they're selected. And then go back here in the corner and say reset to suggested constraints. And boom. And basically what that's doing is it's putting it. These little blue lines, if you remember for them from last class, they're kind of telling where the position is going to be. You remember that from last class? And then if there was a problem with the position, what color was the line? Orange. Okay, so if you see an orange line, there was a problem with it. Remember that? Okay. So if you saw an orange, so blue is good. Blue means it's okay. If you see orange, it means there's probably something that needs to be fixed. And how do we fix it? We said update frames. Do you remember that? We update frames. Okay. Just going back in time a little bit. Let's continue. Okay, so what we got right now is we have two views. In many scenes, is the story about the purpose of actually just two scenes. Okay, I'm gonna turn in page. I'm going to page 184 in the book. So in this case, we want to go from one scene to the second scene. Okay, so if you remember how to do that from last class, if you remember, we simply dragged from the button to the new view. So again, here's my button, the one that says go to scene 2. Select that one. Select the one that says go to scene 2. Now in the book it says hold down the control key. And the reason why it says hold down the control key in the book is because they're assuming you're not using the right mouse click. Remember, the control key is a right mouse click, right? So you don't need to hold the control key down. You can just use the right mouse click from one to the other. Okay, so even though the book says control key, if you're using the right mouse click, you don't have to hold the control key down, right? So the book says, hold the control key on the keyboard, click over the control over a control, in this case the button, and drag the resulting line to scene 2. Upon releasing the mouse, it will bring up the segue. Okay, so here we go. If I hold my right mouse down and I drag from this one to this one, right, holding it on the button, I'm going to release the right mouse click, and it's going to come up, and it's going to bring up the select the present modally, this one, present modally, this one right here, and it's going to present it, and it establishes a segue. Okay, that means it's going to go, when a person clicks here, it's going to go from here to here. If you want to change the transition, because if you think about it, when you go from one view to another view in your app, you can do what we call transitions, right? You can have a wipe. A dissolve would be a dissolve from one to the other. They also have a page peel, or what we call page peel. It's like a curl, or like a page curl. Okay, to adjust those, we click on this, on the thing here, whatever it's called. See, this is kind of telling you, hey, there's something in between these, right? You click on here, and you'll notice over there it says storyboard segue. Okay, you see it up there? Inside there, you can change your transition. See where it says transition right here? You got cover vertical, flip horizontal, cross dissolve, and partial curl. Curl. Okay, now the book says to use cross dissolve, but you can use any one you want. Remember, we never follow exactly what the book does. It doesn't really matter. We're just showing you where to change the transition. Again, you might want to do, how about we try flip? See something different. I don't like. So, again, to change the transition from this one to this one, you click here on the little thing. I don't know what to call that. It's like a little box with the lines going. Okay. And if you want to see it happen, let's save our file and we'll test. Let's save our file and test. So we're going to go under File, Save. And the test again is the little arrow in the upper corner. This arrow right here. And let's see it work. Now remember, these computers were built in 2009. Okay. If you want, I have a computer, a laptop that was built in 2013, and that's even slow. But I just got a brand new laptop built 2015, and when I hit the test button, it's there. Okay. So again, it might take a while. It's still working on it. If you look in the simulator here, it's taking its time. Still working. Again, though, remember next semester we'll have a new room with brand new computers. So hopefully is it really taking this long just to go? Is yours taking that long? Oh, something happened. Oof. Oh, I don't see anything. It's still working on it. It's still working on it. There it goes. Whoosh. Okay, it was still working on it. Again, you go to scene 2. It should flip. Oh, did you see my flip? No, I haven't gone back to scene 1 though, right? It doesn't go back. Didn't go back. But it did work.
When I click on scene 2, it goes back to scene 1.
If you click on scene 2, it should go.
I don't know if
It should say go to scene 2. Did you right click and drag from the button to this?
yeah, so no, when I go, it goes to the second page, and when I'm in the second page, if I click the title, it takes me back to scene 1.
I don't know. Don't know. I don't know why.
Last class we chose a different option though, other than the present mod.
Yeah, we just said show.
Is that does it do the same thing?
It does the same thing,
Okay.
but I'm not sure if you have all the options. Like I had the flipping.
Okay, like the transitions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, you ready to move on? Did it work a little bit? Okay. Really for the probably next week and a week after we'll be making hopefully a little bit nicer interfaces than just plain text. I'm going to try and show you how to make a little better. I might have to make some videos that you're going to have to watch outside of classroom time because we don't have a lot of time in class. So I'm going to probably go through a lot of design things outside of class that you're going to have to go and watch later. Sorry to say. But we'll never get through everything in an hour and a half class. Okay, let's continue. So what we need to do now is, I think you remember when we were talking up here on the board, we need to make a Swift file for the scene 2. Right now there's only one programming file for the first one, but there's not we need to make a second programming file for the second scene. Okay, so it has its own programming, right? We don't, because right now there's one programming file that's associated with both. And if we make adjustments, it's better to have this have its own programming and this have its own programming. At least that's what the book is suggesting. So to make a programming file for the second scene, okay, here we go. At this point in the example, we have 2 scenes, but only one view controller, the one created by the Xcode when we selected single view application. Clearly, in order to be able to add any functionality behind scene 2, it too will need a view controller. The first step, therefore, is to add the class source file for a view controller to the project. Control-click on the storyboard target at the top of the Project Navigator panel and select New File from the resulting menu. In the New File panel, select Source listed under the iOS in the left-hand panel, followed by the Coca Touch class in the main panel, and then click Next to proceed. In the option screen, verify that the subclass of the menu is set to UI View Controller and that the associated created IXB file option is deselected. Since we already have the existing in the storyboard, there's no need for another one. The name of the class should be Scene 2 View Controller. Wow. That was a lot of talking. Okay, well, let's try it. I'll tell you what they're trying to tell you. Okay? Okay. Over here in the let me make sure I do this right. So let me try first. How did I do this last time? I did it over here. So I'm going to open this up. Open this over here up. Over here. You got to see the left side. If you don't see the left side, click here. It'll see this shows. See? Okay. Make sure it's open. Okay. We're going to come up here to your storyboard, the one that you made over here. Remember the first, the little thing right here? Okay. Oops. And we can right click on there and we're going to add, what did I just say? Select New File. New File. So I right clicked over there on the one in the upper corner, and I'm going to say New File. Okay, again, they're asking you to make a Coca Touch class, the one that should be highlighted already. Do you see it highlighted already? All right. Then click Next. It's asking you to give it a name. On the option screen, verify that the subclass of menu is set to View Controller. So this needs to be View Controller. UI View Controller. Right here. Do you see it? And then change the name of the class is going to be Scene, S-C-E-N-E, Scene 2 View Controller. And you don't need to create the XIB file. There's one per app. At least this app. Everybody got that? Okay, watch what happens when you hit Next. It's going to ask you to save it. You can choose your folder. I forget which one I was using. Oh, it's going to the same folder. That's fine. You don't need to adjust anything. You just hit Create. And right up here, it made a new programming file. If you look at the very top of the screen, do you see it up there? Okay, so it's a new programming file for your scene 2. So then you can add things to the programming. So hopefully that makes some sense to it. So that each scene or view has its own Swift file to add programming to. Because then you can do things like that. We can go back to the storyboard now by clicking the main storyboard. You can go back to the storyboard file. Go back to the main storyboard file. Okay. So now that we made a new programming file, a new Swift file, we need to associate that Swift file with the second view. Okay, I'm going to zoom out a little bit so you can see. Okay, see my windows might have got a little messed up here. Let me move them around a little bit so they're next to each other. Okay, so what we need to do is we made a new programming file, right? That's how we did it. We need to take that programming file and associate it with this view. Okay, how we do that is by, see the little yellow dot at the top of scene 2? In scene 2, the little yellow dot at the top. Right here, the little yellow dot right there. Click on that. Oh, maybe it's right click on it. No. Hold on. With the view controller and scene 2 selected with the storyboard canvas, display the identify selector, view utilities identify inspector. Change the class to UI controller to scene 2 view controller. So that's this option right here. So look up there in the upper right corner. See the little square one, or the square one up there? Okay. The little square one up there. Okay, again, I click the yellow button there. And I clicked on the square one over there. Do you see where it says class? We need to tell it to have the name that we just made. Remember, spelling is important. If you used uppercase letters before, you have to use uppercase letters. So this word that is here needs to be the same word that is here. So if you spelled it S-C-E-N-E, to view controller, like that, you should spell it the same way. So now scene 2 has a Swift file associated with it that you can add some programming to. Everybody got that? Again, we made a new programming called Swift programming. We associated with this view. This is the second scene. With this view controller, we gave this a name. So now this scene, you might have to hit tab to make sure. Make sure you hit tab. Sometimes the thing doesn't work if you don't hit tab. And then click on the label. Click on the label. Turn the page. Okay, here's where a little bit of programming needs to be added. Again, that programming is going to be in the scene 2. So what we want to do is we want to put some, we don't want it to be called scene 2 up there. We want to give it some text, like welcome Jeff, or hello Bill. So we're going to change the words in the label using programming. So I'm sure Sam has probably talked to you about some programming already. If I was going to use text and change text, what kind of programming would that be? An integer or a string? String. Okay, so we have to tell a variable to have a string and then put some data into that. Simple as that, right? Okay, so here we go. Let's read them on page 186. I'm in 186 in the book. One of the most common requirements when working with storyboards involves a transfer of data from one scene to the other during a segue transition. This is achieved using the prepare for segue method. Okay, remember the segue means go from one scene to the other. Okay? Before a segue is performed by the storyboard runtime environment, a call is made for the prepare for segue method of the current view controller. If any tasks need to be performed prior to the segue taking place, simply implement this method in the current view controller and add code to perform any necessary task. Passed an argument to this method is a segue object from which a reference to the destination view controller may be obtained and subsequently used to transfer data. To see this in action, begin by selecting Scene 2 View Controller Swift. Okay, how do we select it? View 2 Scene Controller Swift. I'm going to deselect everything for right now. Oh, I did have that selected before, didn't I? Did I have to do something to that? Hold on, let me see. Did I have to do something to that? Oh, we have to give this a name. I'm sorry. My mistake. Before we go to we got to give this a name, the word. And let's make the text a little bigger, because if you type something in there that is longer than the word scene 2, it won't show up because it'll stop it there, and we might have to update frames. Oh no, that didn't work. I don't know. Leave it yellow. I don't care if it's orange. Whatever. All I'm saying is I needed to make this bigger. When I tried doing this last time, reset suggested, maybe that reset suggested constraints. There we go. Okay, go back to reset suggested strings. Guess what I'm trying to say? Sorry. What I'm trying to say is, if you don't make the label box larger and you type in, hey, welcome Jeff, the words welcome Jeff are longer than the scene 2, and the words will be cut off. Okay? So when I was doing this the first time, I had to make the box a little bigger so that the text would fit that I want to put in there. So I dragged the edge of the box larger and then went back to the reset constraints. Do you remember that? Where was that? So I dragged the box bigger here so there's space for my new words. And then I went down here and said reset to suggested constraints. And everything blue is good, right? So if you're going to put words in there, they need to fit in the box, is what I'm trying to say. We'll learn how to do word wrapping, right? Because, you know, the word wrapping, it wraps around a box and stuff like that, because that's going to be important later. We'll learn that later on. But I don't want this to wrap. I just want it to be in one line. Now we need to give this label a name, okay? And it needs to be called Scene 2 Label. So if I click on it, again, oops, oh, jeez. Click on it to select it, okay? And the assistant editor, where do I want it? No, not there. Select the label object in Scene 2 and display the assistant editor. Where's the assistant editor? Make sure that the Scene 2 controller Swift file is displayed in the editor and then establish an outlet name. How did I do that? I have to remember how I did that. Okay, so the assistant editor is under View, Assistant Editor, Show Assistant Editor. Okay. Make sure that the Scene2 View Controller Swift file is displayed in the editor window. Yeah, look, it says Scene2 View Controller Swift, right? It should say that right there. And then establish an outlet for the label name. I don't remember how I did this. I think I did it here. Maybe I retyped it. Hold on. It's this one right here. And that was dragging it. Remember how we dragged it? We dragged it from here to here. Do you remember doing that? And then we gave it a name, and we call it, make sure it's spelled properly, Scene, S-C-E-N-E, to L-A-B-E-L. Remember dragging from here to here, and then give it the name Scene2 label when the window pops up. Just like we did before. Then, after that, we have to hit return. And we're going to put in a variable for a string. I'm going to type in var space label capital T-E-X colon. It doesn't like that. And then type in string capital S-T-R-I-N-G with a question mark. Can you see that? This is what to make this first line right here, to make this line, again, I dragged from the label onto the screen. To make this second line, I typed it in. The second line is telling label text to be a string, which tells it to be a word, right? The word is a string, right? Okay. So we told this to be something, and then we told this to be a string. Okay, last thing we need to do. We have to tell the Scene2 to take on the label text. Where do we do that? You do that down here after the did it load. After it loads, we need to update the text is basically what we need to do. So if you read it, read this right here. Okay, override function. View did load. So when Scene2 loads, do what? Well, of course, it's going to display. That's what this one's doing. View loaded. But we need to tell it to update the text. Because if you don't tell it to update the text, it's not going to do it. So to tell it to update the text, we type right there below where it says super there. We say scene to label dot txt equals label text. Okay, so again, right here. Right here. After Scene2 loads, we want to make sure this text is updated to whatever we want. I'll leave it there for a second. We're almost done with this demonstration here. Let me stop. So make sure it says Scene2 View Controller, right? You're in the right one, right? And we added the scene label. we told the label to be a string, to be some text, and then this tells it to update when the screen loads. Okay, so you're going to have to, when you're programming, you have to kind of, in your brain, kind of think about what it's doing. I know you don't know the actual terms maybe and how to write everything. That's okay. You just need to think about the concepts. Okay? Make some text, tell it to be something, integer or a string, and then view it on the screen. Okay, so the last thing we need to do for this demonstration is when I leave scene 1, I want to tell this text to be something. So you would go back to the first scene when the person hits the button, and when it's transitioning from scene 1 to scene 2, we want to jam some text into that label. So we're passing data from scene 1 to scene 2. Very simple, but again, you'll probably do this with a lot of applications. How do I send data from one to the other? Okay, so let's do that. Last thing we need to do is we're going to go back. We're going to go back to scene 1. Or you can actually just click here if you want. I think this is the one. Is this the one I want? Hold on. No. Hold on. Go back to storyboard. Let's close this one for right now. And let's scroll over. Oh, everything's getting a little crazy. Hold on. Let me drag this back up. It starts, so it's next to it. Hold on. I'm just organizing my window a little bit here. I'm just organizing my window. Finally, select the View Controller Swift file and implement the prepared for Segue method as follows. So again, I'm going to go back to the first View Controller and go underneath View, Assistant Editor, Show Assistant Editor. Is this the one I want? Yeah. I think this is what I want. No, hold on. Let's see. Hold on, this is not the right one. This was the first one. I want the transition. Where's the transition? There it is. We want the transition. Maybe. Hold on. All right, I'm running out of space here. Too much space. This is the one I want. I know I got this to work. Just gotta remember how. I can't remember where to type that. I don't know if I typed it here. I don't know if I did it here. Shit. Should have brought my file. Let me look on my computer. So again, I'm in the view controller SWF file here. I'm towards the bottom before the final bracket there. After this one, I'm going to type in override. Notice how certain things start showing up as you start typing. Override function prepare for, remember, for segue. This one. And then after that, it's let destination equal segue. No, G, not Q. Dot destination view controller as exclamation point and then the name of the scene, SCENE, scene 2 controller, and then destination. This is all one line. It might wrap, but you don't have to hit return. Destination dot label text. Remember, this is the name of the label text, right? We told it to be a string. Make sure that you use the same way that you named it, and then you can put in whatever text you want. Welcome to my nightmare. Okay. And that's it. This is how I got it to work. Again, that's on page 186 in the book. It should have the code hints popping up as you're typing, right? They should pop up. If you see the little red thing over here, it might mean you did something wrong. And so I hit fixed it last time and it fixed it. So if you get a red dot over here, something's wrong. Try to let it fix it. I let it do it last time I got the red dot. So in the book, I'm not sure, but I actually wrote it in. A semicolon at the end here. In here after the R, I need a semicolon. 186. I'm not really sure if this is correct, but this semicolon right here is not in the book. I got a red dot and I hit it and it fixed it. So there's a mistake there in the book on punch 186 for this line of code here. Right here. I believe that needs a semicolon there is what I'm trying to say. And it gave me a red dot. The book didn't have it. I hit the red dot and said fix it, and it seemed to work when I tested it. So after all this time, after everything that we just did, let's save our file and test it. Let's see if it works. Uh-oh. It said failed. I did something wrong. Oh, maybe I need to delete this code thing here. Okay, let's try again. That extra code, I don't know why it was there. Maybe I need a dot. Place editor placeholder and source file. I think I fixed that, didn't I? No. Editor placeholder. No. Yeah. Get rid of the semicolon. Maybe it's not supposed to be there. Maybe it's not supposed to be there. Now it says fix it. I don't know. I don't know if it needs to be there or not. It's
go up to product on the top part.
Hold on. I can't see anything. My windows. Oh, there we go.
No, all the way up at the top where it says editor product debug.
Menu.
You go to go to product to the left of debug, or I guess to and go down to clean.
It's still giving me a message. I got it to work. Hold on. Let me see. Yeah, I didn't have a semicolon, so don't put that semicolon in mine. The one I got to work. Oh, but I did have a return. Maybe that's the problem. So hit return after that, not on one line. Now let me try. So don't put the semicolon in. Okay, so let's see. I'm on. It says go to scene 2. Let's click go to scene 2, and it crashed. No, mine didn't work. Maybe it's trying. Did anybody get it to work? You got it to work. Some of us got it to work. Let me try again. Okay, let me try previewing it again. You really have to have it so big? There we go. Oh, look, Nightmare didn't fit. See, I didn't make my box even big enough for my text. So mine worked. Maybe you have to test it again. Then the last part of the book talks about how you need to the next step is to configure the button on scene 2 to return to scene 1. It might seem as though the obvious choice is to simply implement a segue from the button on scene 2 to scene 1, instead of returning to the original instance of scene 1. However, this would create an entirely new instance of the view controller class. If a user were to perform this transaction repeatedly, the application would continue to use more memory and eventually terminate the operation. This application should instead make use of the storyboard unwind feature. This involves implementing a method in the view controller of the scene to which the user is to be returned and then connecting a segue to the method on the source view controller. This enables an unwind action to be performed across multiple levels of scenes. To implement this in our example application, begin by selecting the view controller Swift file and implementing a method to be called by the unwind segue named return. All this is required method is the example is to set some new text on the label of scene 1. Once a method has been added, it is important to save the view controller Swift file before continuing. The next step is to establish an unwind segue. To achieve this location, scene 2 within the storyboard canvas, control click and drag the button to the exit icon. I don't know. Did you get the text to change? Yes? Did you get the text to change? Did you get the text to change? No? Why not?
It's not working.
Did you try it? Test it again. Welcome to my nightmare. I don't know. See if you can make that work. So if you haven't purchased the book yet, you should do it like today. So I will try and